Are you ready your way? Are you ready, steady, go?
Yep, let's
Oh,
go.
look at those thumbs, all ready to go. Nice and smiling. Well, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and go. Welcome everyone to another episode of the ACCA Global Podcast. Yes, we are still going. Now today, I must say, I am delighted to welcome my guest. This chap has got so much about him. You are in for an absolute treat again, and I appreciate all of his time for coming on. He is also now promoted to the smartest guest I have with the most professional background. I mean, just look at that badge, look at that jacket. Omar, if you are watching right now, I'm afraid you're going to have words on this. This is it. But without any further ado, we have a Harvard Business School graduate here. We have an ACCA Global Council member. The list goes on that we are going to talk about. But without any further ado, I would love to introduce to you all Joseph, and I have to be careful of my pronunciation here, Owolabi as well. Welcome to the podcast, Joseph.
Thanks, James. You got it spot on. Owolabi, you got that
You
right.
see,
Thank you.
this is it. The benefit of the podcast, as I keep saying to the viewers, it's a case of they will see your epic profile on LinkedIn along with mine, which is of a far inferior level. But these little things that they will now get it absolutely spot on, and I'll take the hit on it. But thank you so much for your time today. And as viewers aren't quite aware, we are in a time zone difference here. So it's just gone 10 to 9 in the morning here in the UK. Where are you coming? Where are you tuning in from today?
James, it's Melbourne. It's springtime, which is also different from what you experience in the UK. So it's spring here in Melbourne, and it's just about 10 minutes to 6 p.m.
Oh, you see, but it doesn't matter. That this is the commitment we have on the podcast for the viewers. So it's a case of we're going to tap into those insights today. He's had a mega day at work, but as it is the global podcast, Joseph, which country are you representing today?
So I'm from Nigeria, originally from Nigeria, but like you know, I'm now based in Australia.
I know, and automatically we've lost all of the English viewers who are so envious of your lifestyle out in Australia. It's always one of those things that, as a Brit, my one rule is when I'm going to go over to Australia, it's when the Ashes are on. So, big cricket fan, but we're going to get onto these important matters later on. But as it is an ACCA global podcast, and we're going to have members, we're going to have students, we're going to have people tuning in who are interested in accounting, and all of your fans as well. How many years have you now been an ACCA member?
Oh, yeah. So probably about 10 years now. I became a member around 2010. Yeah, so that's about 10 years.
Rock and roll. I mean, and also, in terms of the best background we have going, it's a case of just explain to the viewers, what is that background behind you?
So it's the ACCA Adelphi, which is our head office in London, and it's our flagship office. We've got similar kind of design and structure across the world, from Singapore to Glasgow, but this is where we all gather for important events like the AGM and what have you.
Absolutely spot on. I mean, as comparisons go, I mean, this is up there on the same scale. This office here, I mean, and quite nicely as well. You've got your badge on. You're putting the host to shame. This is it. But the final thing, so the viewers understand as well. How do we know each other? Where did it all begin? Talk them through it.
Yeah, it's a global village, right? And with the brands such as ACCA, we've got members and students in over 180 countries. I think last time I checked, 181 countries.
You haven't got many fingers on your hand left to count them on, have you?
So, and that shows you the depth and the reach of the qualification. So I was privileged to meet you some years back in London at some of our member events, I think the International Assembly. And we've kept in touch through LinkedIn over the years. I'm so excited, and thank you again, James, for the opportunity to appear here today.
The privilege is all mine, and for the viewers as well. I mean, I must say, we've reached out on LinkedIn together. We've caught up at ACCA member events and other various online webinars. We've done Instagram live feeds. It's a case of, for anyone listening now who thinks, oh, should I get involved in advocacy work or anything on those lines? The opportunities are endless out there. The ball is in your court to, take the reins on it, to get in touch with members wherever they may be dotted around the world. But thank you for representing Nigeria today. Good grief, we are in for a treat. But the first part of the podcast, as always, as I say, it's a case of people will see our LinkedIn profiles and they'll go, yes, he's doing a lot there. But it's a case of getting to know you a bit more personally today and going into a bit more depth as to what you're looking for, what are your areas of expertise. So just short and sweet for the viewers to start off with. Introduce yourself, set the scene for an epic 11 out of 10 podcast.
Okay, awesome. So I'm Joseph Owolabi. My main focus right now is around climate risk. And so climate risk and what impact that has on the financial statements. And so I'm a director at Ruby Cola, which is a green finance company. And the focus is on mobilizing investments for green innovation. And so we work with clients, with government to help deliver on sustainable development goals. And that's all big words, but I'm a risk person, from cyber risk to financial statement risk. Now climate risk is still the same thing, looking at risks that prevents organizations from achieving their objectives.
Spot on. Gosh, I mean, CEO, previously worked for the Big Four. Sustainability. I'm getting more into sustainability now and all the different jinx that companies are getting into. So we are going to touch on that later. But before I forget as well, one of the rules of the podcast is that the guest decides what we have to drink for the podcast. So would you like to introduce to the viewers what you selected today? Look at the smile on his face. Look at this.
Okay, you asked for it. You asked for it, James. So the best of all these 20,
yeah.
If you're from the US, you're probably used to the Port Taylor brand. That's what it's called in the US and across Europe. We'll call it 20 here in Australia. And so that's what I'll be,
wow. Bring your glass back up again. Now, viewers, as I am we're 5 to 9 in the morning from the UK, and I've got a couple of online classes just for the commitment of you watching now. I've got some lovely fruit juice, but it looks a bit red as well. So we're still participating. Yes, indeed. Yes, yeah, I say it's fruit juice.
Okay.
Anyway,
fair enough.
cheers, Joseph,
Yes.
and thank you for coming on as ever.
Pleasure.
Lovely. Well, this nicely leads on. I mean, this presenting malarkey, I'm getting ace at this now. It's a case of we're now nicely going to feed onto our actual quick fire round where the viewers actually get to know you a bit more personally, and it's a case of we've got two options. Okay, two options, and you don't know the questions, which is even better, but they're not controversial. It just depends how you answer them. So the first one, I really want to know, would you say you are a high-tech person or a low-tech person?
I'll probably say high-tech.
Going high-tech. Oh, you see, I'm quite low-tech. I mean, can you tell on the gear here as well? But I mean, in your areas, I mean, where have you been working on high-tech systems, would you say?
Yeah, so over the years, I've worked to see how we can leverage technology in delivering some of the accounting and finance solutions. So from Sarbanes-Oxley regulatory requirements like Sarbanes-Oxley in the US and for US listed companies to IFRSs, looking at specific solutions that can help with things like effective interest rate computations, amortization, with the new leasing standards, tools that can help with your lease portfolio, insurance contracts. So looking at all those complex computations or schedules that are needed for reporting and developing tools to help make that easy. So that's an area I've also worked on over the years.
Spot on. And for anyone listening in as well, if you haven't already, go onto ACCA's website and check out some of the free webinars on there as well, because some of the matters you've just picked up on and others such as blockchain and artificial intelligence, just an hour on there with the reports, you get some proper content as well. and it's on there for you. So make the most of it. But we've now got to go on to the type of person you are as well. So would you describe yourself as a serious guy or a funny guy? Which one we're going for?
That's difficult, right?
I know it is difficult.
I tend to think I'm a funny guy, but people when they first meet me say I look too serious.
Really? Oh, right.
Yeah, but I think when you get up close, it's not a very serious guy. So I think there's that facade of, hey, I'm very serious, and
Oh,
yeah, I'm a fun guy.
oh, you see, I get people when they first meet me, they go, "Oh, he's quite a funny guy." But then when they actually start to work with me, or they see me in a meeting or something, they're like,
Too serious.
"He's very serious now," because it's just you need a good balance on it. Plus, it's
Right.
when you're focused on the task in hand. Like I've no other distractions. It's something
Yep.
I've learned over the years. It works an absolute treat. So
Yeah,
yes,
I agree.
but I think the next question on my list, and for anyone who is new to tuning into the podcast, we run on a £0 budget over here. And look at this. This is Oscar-winning notes that we have. So this is what I'm following as we go through. But my next one was going to be: Are you a smart dresser or a casual dresser?
Most times it's smart. Yeah,
Yes.
smart.
You see, I think that was a gimme. I mean, my normal white T-shirt for the podcast. I'm usually in running kit training for marathons or half marathons. So it's but when someone sees me in a suit, this is my one rule for anyone listening. It means that it matters. So that's heed the warning if you see me in a suit.
Yeah.
I think it's graduation was the last one I wore a suit for, and job interviews maybe, but that'll be it. But okay, bit more serious on this question then. Are you a morning person or an evening person?
Tricky. I think I get good work done in the evenings, but hey, most people tend to work in the morning. So you have meetings in the mornings. I still do work in the mornings, but yeah, I'm not afraid to put in the late night hours, right?
It sounds like you're a night owl then, I believe it's called. So I'm
Yeah,
I'm an I'm an early bird. So first thing, and then quick coffee, and then I get my most productive hours done. Just like now. I mean, this podcast is going to be on the ratings. It's going to be 11 out of 10. This one. It's yeah. I find I get the most done there because it goes. You have peaks and troughs. And I
yeah.
think it's really interesting when you take a step back and look at, well, where am I being the most productive in my day? And comes with experience on it. But do you actually mentor any employees in terms of that? Do you actually have anybody shadow you?
Yeah, so over the years, I've had opportunity to coach people or mentor, as it were, based on various performance, programs.
Mm,
I think it's just doing what works for you.
yeah.
But whether you be a morning person or a night owl, it's still the same thing. Most businesses still operate, unfortunately, within the 9 to 5
Mm,
kind of rule. So you need to still adapt. But that's changing with remote working. COVID has brought some of that, and most teams are now having global teams. Either you're working with somebody in Boston or in Hong Kong, and different time seasons. You need to also be flexible
mm.
to be able to adapt. You might be getting on an early morning call to catch up with people in Australia, or a late evening call for the US team.
Oh,
Yeah,
I know the
quite
feeling of
challenging.
getting up. Yes, getting up and listening to someone from Australia. Delightful. But we're going to come on to the final one now because you and I participate in this. We've got to talk about, do you prefer running or walking? Because we are part of the ACCA Global Run. So are you more of a
Yeah.
walker or a runner?
Oh, well, it's 100%. I've only been walking throughout. I've not even done a day of running. So,
I had to call you out. I had to call you out on it. So that's for anyone who would like to participate in it. You just simply find the ACCA Global Run online. You can walk, you can run. It's all out there, but you actually get to interact with other members online. And for mental health and well-being, just getting out there, bit of exercise. I mean, is that something you actually advocate in your role? Would you say?
yeah, it's important, especially for me, being in Melbourne, Australia. We've had the longest streak of lockdown in the world,
Mm,
even much more than Wuhan in China. So for the last 6 months or so, citizens of Australia or residents in Victoria have been on lockdown. And so that's been challenging from a mental wellness perspective. And so, there's no better opportunity than the ACCA Global Run or Walk to get engaged, make sure you using your muscles, participating, getting in good hormones and endorphins, serotonin flowing easily, and interacting with other colleagues around the world.
Yeah, I mean, my best wishes goes out to absolutely everyone in Australia and around the world. No one could have really predicted it in terms of it, that it was going to happen this year. But before every podcast I do, I always go for a little walk around the block as well, bit of fresh air, and you're good to go. You're good to go. That's the main thing. Gosh.
Always necessary.
Oh, it's such a difference, especially when it was ACCA studying as well. I wish I'd have included exercise as a must in there, because it just makes such a difference to your concentration. And then you start to put this into practice at work, because you actually get more productive meetings. You actually have more ideas, all these different things. It's, yes, try it. That is the main thing I think you and I would recommend for anyone listening.
Definitely.
But now we've come off the more sort of personal side. We'll come on to a bit more later on. But the viewers are here to hear more about you, more about your current role as well. So in terms of someone out there who you might want to look to connect with, or your current role, talk us through it as to a bit more detail as to what you currently do day to day, or what you're looking to actually connect with.
Yeah, so it's largely an advisory practice, and we're advising organizations around their long-term strategy, and with a focus on risk. So climate risk is critical, and we've seen that with some of the bushfires now in California. We had that 18 months ago in Australia, and all of the flooding in Indonesia and the US, Ukraine, and all of that. But more importantly, fossil fuel companies also know that they need to evolve, right? Because in the next 20, 30 years, we know facts and evidence suggests that it would be more tilting towards renewable energy. And so you've got companies like the international oil and gas companies, the likes of Chevron and Shell, and these are billion-dollar organizations. ExxonMobil, they need to rethink their strategy to be able to continue to exist. Going concern, as accountants call it. So it's a going concern risk for these organizations. But more importantly, even organizations that you think are less impacted, like in the transport and the buildings, construction, it's now becoming the norm that you'd have smarter engineering and low carbon emission industries. And so helping companies to really walk through all of this maze, providing advisory as well as assurance services. And there's a huge gap, funding gap there in that mix. So to deliver on the sustainable development goals, you need about 2% of global annual GDP. And that's huge, trillions of dollars. And so working with investor communities, providing assurance around some of the processes, we're helping issuers, list green bonds and, finance some of these renewable projects.
Oh, I completely agree. And for anyone who's out there who would like to follow us on Instagram as well, I must say, Joseph posts some great stuff on there, from especially the facts and the figures from actual lockdown on there as well, because the global emissions dropped significantly. And the positive impact on everything from the environment to wildlife to cities to air pollution. It's amazing when you take a step back and actually go, imagine if we actually put some of this into practice more often. But what was the most shocking fact or thing that really stood out to you from the sort of 2020 lockdown?
I think it's the fact that we can do great quality work without being in the office. Over the years, in the last 10 years, global organizations, multinationals have tried to make a case for remote working and all of that. But we know it's still a challenge because supervisors are still skeptical. You feel your colleagues are not working if they're working from home. Yeah. But with the lockdown in most economies, people were forced to work from home, and things still progressed. So I think there's going to be a mind shift from that, archaic thinking that you can't get the best out of employee productivity when people are not in the same building. More importantly, organizations will start rethinking the strategies around leasing of office buildings and all of that. And there would also be health implications. Because a lot of people felt isolated and lonely. You're not working in teams. You can't see your colleagues. You can't do all of the catch-ups and meetups you would do in between sessions. So that's some of the challenges also we would need to deal with.
Wow, well, it all depends on your colleagues, I guess. Who knows what our colleagues have thought about missing you and I, but they could, if they're watching this, they can leave it in the comments. And
No, I don't miss you.
But there's some great points in there about the actual costing structures are going to be changing for companies. They're going to have to be looking through this. And then also for anyone who's actually going into potentially a job interview in the coming months or years, it's going to be on the forefront that they've got to be mentioning it, and change and adaptability as well in that, because if you're not going to change, then I'm afraid that it's going to take over you. But I think the costing at the moment to actually become more environmentally friendly, businesses are just seeing it's just a bit too much, I think, at the moment in terms of it. But the benefits from it are just massive on so many external factors.
Rightly so.
Yes, but oh well, I mean, if there's anyone watching now in terms of has an interest in that area, I mean, all of your details or all of my details to connect will be in the bottom as well. But we need to come on to now. We need to come on to ACCA. Oh yeah, forgot that bit. It is the ACCA Global Podcast. Oh, bring it back, James. Bring it back. Joseph has come on with his lovely background and his lovely badge, so we're going to have to talk about it as both being members. But what roles do you take up within ACCA as well, for anyone who's out there who doesn't know?
Yeah, I've been opportune to be able to serve our members in ACCA in different platforms. So I started out first as a tutor, right? And so I was helping students and progress through their journey to become affiliates and mentoring affiliates to members. Immediately after I qualified some 10 years ago, did that for about 5-6 years.
Nice.
Then I represented Nigeria on the International Assembly with ACCA, which is more like our own UN, United Nations, where we pull senior members from over 50 markets, around the world to help shape some of the strategies that the council is looking at. And so the next year I moved on to council, and council is our highest governance structure at ACCA, where we've got about 38 members from around the world, I think about 18 countries currently.
Nice.
And these are senior members, CFOs, professors, CEOs, consultants, and what have you, and they help determine our strategy for the next 5 years. So we've got a strategy to 2025. That councils helped, shape that, and the management executives will be working on. So I'm currently a member of the Global Council. I was also panel member for ACCA members in Australia and New Zealand between 2018 2019. But I'm back to Global Council now.
Honestly, it's the amount of stuff, the amount of involvement you've been in. I mean, this is where the podcast is just going up. We're edging up to the Premier League now. This is it. I mean, it's I like that. Yes, not because of the host though. It's okay, but. So just for viewers out there who maybe are just newly qualifying or maybe even just starting their accounting journey, I mean, talk us through what the actual Global Council do in a bit more detail for them as well, because when I was just qualifying as a member, I'd heard about them but didn't actually quite know the full details as well. But talk us through all the marvelous stuff that you do.
Yeah, I think the first place to start is, as soon as you're done with your journey to becoming a member, you feel that pride, being able to put on this badge. And just like your Chelsea, what fan are you? Premier League club do you follow?
Oh, wow. Well, now we're getting into controversy. This isn't how the podcast works, Joseph.
Yeah, but whatever club you follow, the same way footballers go, saying this is my crest. It could be a Real Madrid or Manchester United or Liverpool, whatever it is. Right, they feel the pride in the crest. So also our members, especially new members, should feel the pride in the qualification. You've put in so much work to get to become a member, and I do encourage members to participate. So there are always opportunities in your local panel. Reach out wherever you are in Bristol, wherever you are in Glasgow, Edinburgh, wherever in Africa, in Nepal, in Australia. We've got panels there, and panels are a group of members that help shape ACCA's strategy in that market. And they also support the ACCA staff and employees. And so get involved. The opportunities to be involved with younger members or supporting students or doing so many things there. I think that's where I encourage people to start. And you can work your way up to the council. Like I said, councils are our highest governance structure. And what they do is it's more of advisory where, we come in, inform the strategy. ACCA is a member organization. And so our council members are drawn from our global membership. And so they represent all of our members. So I'm representing members in the UK, even though I'm not based or from the UK. I'm representing members from Dubai, from China. And that's the way we've structured the governance structure such that it's inclusive. One of our core values is inclusivity and diversity. So we want to ensure that we have, thoughts and feeds from all of these markets around the globe. So council is our IS governance structure. They help ensure that ACCA continues to remain relevant, that the qualification itself carries that rigor. And the process to being a member, it's rigorous. The brand is what it is. And we are global ambassadors for ACCA around the world.
I know, absolutely spot on. And some of the work you do with all of your nice posters, I must say that the list of stuff that you get involved in is endless on it as well. But I can only advocate to, as myself as an advocate, getting involved with local panels as well, and ACCA employees who reach out to you and say that we've got this opportunity, can you help, or would you like to get involved? So it's a case of take action if you're listening to this right now. So hop onto LinkedIn. You can actually probably find on there an ACCA local member who can probably put you in touch as well. There will always be someone out there. But coming back onto your original question, my team is, and for my loyal fans out there, Leicester City is my team.
Yeah, champions! Leicester champions!
Who is your team? Who's your team?
I don't really have a particular team, but I, follow the Premier League and amazing coaches and footballers, right? So I don't really have a particular team, but I know Leicester, amazing work you guys did, and you've gone through so much adversity and some significant tragedy along the way, but it's an excellent club.
Yes, well, Simon Capper, who's the finance director of Leicester City, he is also a ACCA member as well. Lovely chap, met him a few times now. So, Simon, if you are watching, you are more than welcome to come onto the podcast. Please feel free to bring on Jamie Vardy, James Madison. We can bring on the whole team, and I'm sure as a second career for them, they would love to become accountants and ACCA members. We can do an awards ceremony on here.
Why not?
That's it. But so now leading on to, we've alluded on to other things that you now know that I'm a Leicester City fan, but we can now come on to, do I agree with you as well? So this is the other interesting bit where viewers get to know you and I a bit more personally as well, so that if they wish to connect with us online, or when they do, they know a bit more about us, so that you can engage on a more sort of personal level, and then you also interact with your expertise, which we'll come on to later on. But do I agree with you? The first one on here, who's your favorite music artist, would you say, out there? If you could listen to just one artist, who would you go for?
It's always a difficult one.
Wow, you could be a Susan Boyle fan. I don't know. This is the thing.
R&B kills it for me, and I'm still pretty old school. So guys like Usher,
Nice.
pretty much killed it. Yeah. I think Usher would still be the guy for me.
Do you like Craig David?
Craig is good. John Legend's good. Yeah.
John Legend's got that one song that that they play at weddings, I'm pretty sure. But
a couple of, he's got a, I know there's one to play at weddings. I can't remember that one.
Sorry, John, if you are listening, I'm sure you are. but obviously I really like all your songs, so it's okay. But I think we're going to have to talk about Australia a bit more as well, because the viewers will be interested, because you've done so much traveling as well. But what's your favorite Australian food now you've been out there for a few years?
There's Australians pride themselves in kangaroo, right? So there's a kangaroo beef, but I'm not uh, a big fan of that. There's also the Vegemite, which is like a spread
Oh, right.
that
Okay.
your loaf of bread. It's a bit bitter. I don't know how people get to enjoy it. But if you come to Australia, there's regular English cuisine and all of that. So there's no particular, Aussie kind of meal and all of that. We've got a lot of English people here, so you find that what you find in Italians and Greek. So that especially in Melbourne, where we've got very diverse. You see cultures. I think about 100 countries represented. So it's very diverse.
Lovely. Well, for anyone from Australia who is listening in as well, I mean, again, feel free to put it in the comments as to dishes that you would recommend for Joseph to try as well. So who knows in the world who might pop in and watch this. But the other thing which people who I know have gone over to Australia to work is they always say, "What animal am I most scared of when I go to Australia?" So, what animals have you seen out there that would be particularly scary for our viewers, or have you explored Australia much?
Yeah, it's very funny because when I first moved here some 4 years ago, folks ask me if I see a crocodile behind, my backyard and all of that kind of stuff. So it's funny, right? Because most people now, live in the cities, right? Unless you go to regional, the bush, where you find all of the wildlife. But I've seen a few kangaroos here and there and all of that, but not so much of wildlife in terms of the snakes and the crocodile, the crocs, and yeah.
We're gonna have to get you in the outback on a 2-week trip or something.
Yeah, why not?
We'll call it a sustainability trip. How about that? That'll be it. That's yeah. I mean, what advice would you give to anyone? Because traveling over and working in a new place such as Australia, what advice would you give to listeners who have maybe considered it as well, or considering it in the future?
Yeah, I think it's the best thing you can do, right? Yeah, it's just one life, and you need to live it to the fullest. And so, if you've got an opportunity to move countries, there's so much learning that you can get out of that. And I don't just mean from a technical perspective, right? So, it's a bigger market for me, and I've been opportune to be able to do big transactions, listed some of the largest IPO here in this region, done a lot of IFRS work and sustainability work. But more importantly, the relationships you build with other people, you learn different culture, and all of that. I think that's rich for you. The richness of your network is very critical. So especially for younger members, we're just starting out, or a few years. When you become a member, I encourage people to consider some time overseas. And it doesn't have to be, it could be 3 months, yeah, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. Take a year off and go, come to Australia.
I'll come and see you. Don't you worry about that. I mean, if we were to share a stage on an ACCA event, they'll be looking at you, Joseph, and going, "Oh, Global Council member," and then they'll look at me and go, "Hang on, and you're that bloke off YouTube."
I know, right? And here he's in Melbourne.
Yes. Good morning, Melbourne. And I completely agree. I did a 3-month placement out in the USA, and the people you meet, the connections, and also your comfort zone as well, because you just out into the blue of you're going to have to sort things out yourself, and I think it really helps. But the best bits of advice I'd give are, you got to check the visas. There are other legal requirements, so you might actually have to have, I think in Australia, you have to have a certain amount of money as well. Guarantors are potential, and you've got to have good references as well, and particular skills to go out there. So, but did you find any difficulties working out there? Or, in fact, a good question would be, did you actually find the job before you went out there, or did you just travel out there and found a job?
Yeah, so, speaking to that, and people get so discouraged, when they want to move countries, and they look at all of the barriers to entry. And that's where a global brand like ACCA helps. And
Yeah.
so when you connect in with members, so if I were to want to come to the UK, I'll just reach out to James and say, hey, James, I want to come to the UK. What are the opportunities? How can you help me? And that's what really literally happened in my case. And I've got another ACCA member based in Hungary, and he's a partner with a firm. And I told him about my ambition of going to Australia. And he helped in one way or the other to get me in for an interview, and the rest is history. So don't underestimate the power of that network, that global network that ACCA offers. So if you want to go to a country, reach out to members there, and they might be able to, of course, do your homework. Do your own homework, understand what the requirements are, and all of that. If you need a license, in my case, I needed to get a residential permit. I did all of that process myself. And when I got all of that, it was easy to ask someone for help. So in terms of the job, I was going to move anyways. I'd resigned my previous role and I was about leaving. Then I got the job. So some people find that you get the job before getting there. I would have moved anyways. Some people come in before they get a job. Some people come for some form of education, a postgraduate or a diploma or certificate, just to get used to the environment and the jurisdiction. There are many approaches to consider, but if you've got that ambition, I'll say, go for it. Don't get discouraged.
Oh, no. I heard lots of people come to Australia, Joseph, just to see you. But anyway, we move on. We move on. It's all right. But you mentioned there on travel and you've worked around the world. But where's the one place in the world that you've always wanted to visit that is on your bucket list to go and see?
Okay. So I've never been to South America, the entire continent, nowhere on the continent. And so that's somewhere I'd definitely love to go, hopefully in the next 3 years. I want to visit that continent. That's the only continent I've not been to now. So from Chile to Uruguay to Argentina, whatever is in that mix, it is somewhere I want to experience. The culture is rich, and the languages and the people, the dance and all of that. So.
You look like quite the dancer. It's okay. So, but I know from my Instagram and my videos that I post online. So go and feel free to check them out on the channel as well, everyone. But we do have viewers from Brazil, from Mexico, from Argentina. I know you're out there. They'll be watching now, so I'm sure they can post in the chat any recommendations, or they'll
Definitely.
just put
do that, guys.
They'll put Brazil's the best. It's okay, so it's all right. But and just finally on from our personal sort of, do I agree with you perspective? You mentioned about Leicester, but what is your sport, or what is your team who you support? Because I don't know this now, so I'm interested.
Yeah, so I love NBA, the basketball league in the US, but I also follow the league here in Australia. But I love NBA, and my team is the Golden State Warriors,
right?
Out of Oakland, in California.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Why did you pick them?
It's just there's so much about sports in building a career. So there's a lot of similarities. Between building high-performing teams in sports and having high-performing teams in industry. Yeah. And so that caught my interest. And of course, I've followed tennis from guys like Andy Murray and Djokovic and Federer. And
Andy Roddick, you've got to follow. He's an Aussie, and he's a really good player. Andy,
I've got
your back.
Good guys here in Australia. But I think NBA is our favorite sport for me because it's a team sport. And to win, you need to work sometimes in teams and understanding people's strengths and weaknesses, more like in the military, right? And you watch someone's back and you go to war together. So basketball is it for me. You got a team of 5 guys all trying to get an objective, which most times is the championship. Yeah. And Golden State, came up from just all guys drafted. Most of the core were all drafted young guys, and going on to win the championship in 2015 and going to 5 finals in about 5 years or so. Yeah, the history and the culture they're trying to build there is what I really like.
Oh, it is. I watch a few pieces online about the mentality of basketball players and how that can transition to you, basically. And players like Kobe Bryant, who, you just only see Kobe Bryant on the pitch for those few minutes, but the amount of times he's tried, he's failed, he gets up and goes again and goes again and goes again. If everyone had that mentality, and you take that away and you think, oh, I'm gonna put that into practice with my running, with my teaching, with my other things on the side, like this, for example. And before you know it, you've just got a changing mindset all the time, where you just want to pass that information, that knowledge on to other people, because I know it's only going to help. So it's a case of Michael Jordan's the other one, where he came out of retirement and won it. I was reading about him recently, and he's got an amazing mentality where he comes out of retirement, and then did he win 3 championships after it? I think it was. And for any viewers out there who, you will know who Michael Jordan is, but he was cut from his basketball team when he was 18, I think it was, saying he wasn't good enough. Amazing stuff. It's but coming back onto basketball, I've been to the Miami Heat as well. I've been to that stadium.
They're in the finals now, so they're in the finals. So
yes, now I've got my touristy photo outside. But mega! I will remember that, so it's okay. If I see anything interesting, motivational about basketball, it's coming your way. Don't you worry about that.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. You got me.
It's all right. But we got talking about their motivation and sort of insights as well from our knowledge. So this is where the final bit of the podcast talks about your experience as well and how you can help viewers on this. So I know from in your past as well, you've worked at some of the big 4 firms out there. So what would be your advice for anyone who's thought, oh yes, I really want to go work at PwC or EY or Deloitte or KPMG? What would be your advice for them?
Yeah, thanks, James. So I've worked for 3 of the 4 global accounting firms, the top 4 firms, and it's a good place to learn. I think I enjoy the experience. I've got some of the greatest learning of my career so far from the time I've spent there. So I encourage young people, if you do get an opportunity to work there, why not? Even if it's for 6 months or a year, you would always, the culture is deep enough to get you going, and people respect that in industry. So even if you want to go on to work in manufacturing or financial services, having a stint at a big 4 firm is always useful. But nonetheless, it's very, very competitive. And so even if you can't get in there, don't be too hard on yourself. There's still other very good firms. The top 10 is great. Firms like BDO, GT, Thornton, all of those guys, KPF and all of that. But even outside of the top 10, there are regional firms, there are national, local firms that you learn a lot. And some of them are very specialized. So there'll be some small and medium-sized practice that might be in different countries, the UK and Scotland and Nepal, but they've got deep roots. Some of them have been in existence for over 100 years. So when looking out for an employer, of course, the Big 4 will be a great place to land, but you need to think outside of the box. Yeah. Sometimes you've got some firms that are just, like in Canada, they've got the MNP, it's a national firm with great history and people and culture. Definitely. In Australia, we've got a lot of firms that are not even in the top 50, but they're good, equally good place to learn. And you find that sometimes you rise even faster in the smaller firms. So it's, just look out for the opportunity, trust your instinct. The former president of the IIA, International Institute of Auditors in the US, said that building a career is more of an art, not an act, right? So it's more of an art, right? You don't even know, you just keep painting this. It looks like a glitch or a mistake, but it turns out perfectly beautiful later on. So just trust your instincts, keep pushing. Sometimes you make mistakes, like you pointed out with some of the athletes, and that's fine, but give it your best and keep going.
Oh, completely agree. And also, as the global podcast on here has a sponsorship deal of naught, who knows? I mean, KPMG out there, who knows? We could put a KPMG sort of banner at the bottom or something. Who knows? You see, just so entrepreneurial there, Joseph. Well pointed out. But I completely agree. And also, LinkedIn is a massive tool for this as well, because I've got friends who work at the Big Four, top 10, top 50, and if they're recruiting someone, one of the first places they go to is LinkedIn, and on social media channels as well. So what would you recommend for someone to be posting on LinkedIn if they're looking for a role, or how can they use it effectively?
Oh, definitely. LinkedIn has helped me a lot in my career also. With LinkedIn, you can search and filter through whatever, your schoolmates. You can go into the advanced setting and check people that have gone to. So I did my master's in Yorkshire, right, with St. John School there. And so I could go in there and look for people that have been part of that, or Harvard, or Wharton, all of that kind of stuff. You could look for interest, right? So you could be part of ACCA. You can look out for members of ACCA in a particular country, and you can connect with them. And that's very useful, especially when you want to network, when you want to move countries, or you're looking for opportunities in specific sector. And so I use LinkedIn, even connecting with industry. So if there's something I want to do, I reach out to people there. So LinkedIn is powerful. Employers, go out there, make sure you got a good photograph, head and shoulder. Not you playing basketball if you're not a basketball athlete.
Spin the ball on your finger or something. That would be impressive.
So if you're a professional, an accountant, something at least semi-casual. Even you don't have to put on a tie. At least something like this. If you can get a tie, why not? Look professional. Head and shoulder, always a good one. There, also get your profile updated every time you change roles.
Yeah.
That tells a bit of a story about who you are, and other things that are not necessarily related to work. So if you volunteer, like James is doing an amazing work with this global podcast, that's something you want to put out there that employers can see that you're helping with the community, if you're feeding people, if you're reaching out to veterans, and all of that kind of work that you do in your community should be part of your professional profile on LinkedIn.
I completely agree. Lots of people don't like to tell other people about it. It's a case of just work hard and promote. That's it in terms of it. Yeah. So yes, it's a case of we've had loads of people on the podcast so far, but it's a case of your LinkedIn profile is it's described as your online CV. That's one of the main things for it on there. So it's a case of, if you've not got it up to date, it's your first point of contact, isn't it, on there as well? So it's an underused tool, I would say, in terms of it as well. So May, who was on the podcast recently, she's got an unbelievable array of stuff on her LinkedIn, but she uses it so effectively as well, which just have a look on different people's profiles like yourself, and it's a case of even the smallest little things go a long way from there as well. So it's the opportunities as well, I think. It's an abundance on there. But coming on to other things then as well, because 2020, it's been a difficult year. I would say, well, unexpected year, shall we say. What have you learned about yourself this year, or what have you particularly changed in yourself that potential viewers could take it on board and maybe adapt it into their lives?
Yeah, 2020 is going to go down as, some people have described it as the black swan. Some people have said it's not necessarily black swan, the gray horn, whatever you call it. It's a 1 in a 100-year event or crisis, whatever you call it.
Yeah. And
so you see in the UK going into recession, Australia for the first time in 29 years have gone into recession, and you've seen that in the US also. There's some good news. China is coming out of recession. We've seen some recovery from Far East, and we hope that over the next year or so, other Western countries will pick up from there. But there's still increasing deaths and number of cases in places like India, US, Brazil. So it's been a challenging year. We need to put all of that in context. If you look at, you need to do a balanced scorecard. So don't just score yourself on one point. Understand that, we've lost a lot of people. A lot of people have lost their loved ones, and they couldn't even grieve. They couldn't bury their grandparents. They couldn't be there to attend the funeral. And those are deep regrets people hold on to. So if you're still alive, if you still got a job, or, even if you had to do, if you go on follow, or, have to take some pay cut and all of that, put it in perspective. It's just a year. When you look at your career in, over the span of 30, 40 years, it wouldn't matter. So don't put too much emphasis on this year. Stay focused. If you've got a 5-year goal, still keep working on it. You got a bad year, doesn't mean that's the end of your 5-year plan. Stay positive. Mind your mental wellness. I think that's a critical area, and that's why I love the global ACCA Global Run and Walk. I think it's a good initiative. I think people should just keep things in perspective this year and not be too hard on themselves.
Yeah. Oh no, I was thinking the exact same word there on perspective as well, by the way. That's absolutely fundamental. And like you said, there's a well-being hub that the ACCA now have got, and it's a case of just taking a step back and saying it is 1 year as well, and your career will have lots of ups and downs, and I can, as we'll have on record from the podcast today, this is definitely the pinnacle in your career, obviously, coming on today's show. So you'll look back in 20 years time and say, what happened? I thought I was going to elevate from James's show, but look, that was it. That was the level. That was it. But in terms of the future, though, if viewers are watching now as well, what type of person are you looking to connect with, or what areas are you particularly interested in that someone's going to get in contact with you on LinkedIn, drop that message and say, I listened to you on the podcast, very interesting stuff. What are you interested in?
Yeah, so it's around risk, and risk would always be important. Over the last 30 years, we've seen the entire risk consulting industry grow to what it is today, from different types of risk. Now there's so much focus on climate risk and what that means to different industry. So there's that focus for me. If you're doing things around green finance, transitioning from fossil fuel energy to more renewable sources of energy, that will be areas where I want to connect. But even more importantly, digital, revolution. If you're involved in developing applications and mobile apps and all of that, that's an area where I'm also interested in. Definitely love to connect people in that space.
Wow, I know you're a busy guy, so it's okay. You will find, as ever, we always find time for stuff we're interested in. But you mentioned risk, because again, I'm on that. But I'm always interested on this because teaching at university. Do you find, or what's your opinion on the risk willingness of people these days? Do you think they're more risk takers or risk adverse, would you say?
That's a challenging one. Depends on the group of people, and sometimes from persons to persons, you would find a wide difference. And even the same person can be risk averse in one thing and risk tolerant on the other. So it totally depends. But you find that most times we all just are risk averse. Usually, we don't want to change the way we've been doing things. We're very resistant to change. This is the John Lewis forces against change. There's a theory around change, a change theory by John Lewis, and so it talks about resistance to change. And so most times we resist change, and that's what we'll find. But to stay relevant, we need to constantly challenge us. It's difficult, and especially when you become a member of ACCA, you've done your exams. It's always going to be challenging to learn new things, to pick up data analytics, to try and understand what's happening in green finance, or to understand things around ethics and anti-money laundering. But you need to understand that if you don't challenge yourself, if you don't take up that risk to innovate, then you might be left out, right? So I see into the future, there'll be opportunities now around artificial intelligence, machine learning, facial recognition, because we'll need all of that in a contactless environment, which we would expect to peak over the next 5 years because of some of this will not be the last viral, crisis we would have. So people want to be more prepared. There'll be a lot of investment started happening already in technology. And so you need to take that risk to want to try out new things as an accountant and pick up new competencies.
But I think that as well, just to add on that, absolutely spot on, but pick an area that you enjoy as well. That's the other thing, because if you're going to be working for a number of years in your life, if you find that if you're into technology and particular areas, so if it's facial recognition, become an expert in that area, research as much as you can, and then have a broader sort of knowledge of other things such as money laundering, IFRS, all these other different areas, and plan your time with your CPD as well. Just make the most of it. That's the thing. It's and take the risk as well. It doesn't actually matter in terms of it, it's okay.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong on there?
Yeah. Why not?
It's all right. But now I know we are slightly pushed for time on here, but have you got any other sort of wise words of wisdom from your experience that you've just got burning to get off your chest from today? Of James, we've not had chance to discuss this yet.
No, James, is first to thank you for this amazing work you're doing for our students and our affiliates, helping them in their journey, because this is critical. It's part of what ACCA, we look at developing more support for students. And I think this is a critical element of that support system for students and new members, young members looking at how to position their career. So an amazing thumbs up to you for an amazing work. And thank you for having me here to speak to members. And I think the greatest thing you can do as a member is look for opportunities to give back. And I think that's what James is doing here, giving back to the entire global community of ACCA. For you, it might not be a podcast. For you, it might be in your local community, helping young people that don't have a clue on what they want to do with their life and showing them the opportunities that ACCA has to offer. Or you could be serving on a panel anywhere you are. So whatever works for you, look for opportunities to make an impact that matters.
I mean, they are very, very sweet and very kind words, Joseph, I must say. But I just find the outreach of you and I have no idea who could be watching this right now, or who could just be listening in and just take that nugget of advice. And in 10 years' time, I'll say, I listened to you and Joseph having a chat about squash, and then he needs to be trying some more Australian food. And I actually messaged him on LinkedIn, and we got talking about the Big Four and all these different matters. So it doesn't matter about what level you are at in terms of, we could have somebody listening in who's on the first lecture of their first ACCA exam, or somebody who's just interested in the field, or obviously your global fan base will be listening as well. So that's another thing to bear in mind. But it's just taking that initiative as well as to saying, I could do that, or I quite fancy getting involved with that. So and then viewers, as you can see, you can have a lovely background just like Joseph, where this is progress. You see, give me a few years, and then I'll make it up to that level. It's okay. But what else have you got planned for this evening then? Are you just taking it easy now after a hard day at work?
Oh, come on. I've got the wine, courtesy of you. So I don't just enjoy the rest of it, and just chill.
I've been enjoying my squash, I must say.
Okay. I need to catch up then.
You see, well, this is the stereotypicalness of people think that accountants are quite boring, which unfortunately we still have, which is one of the things from the podcast. I thought, well, we're going to be doing personal stuff. We will talk about our expertise areas and what we're interested in. But did you still find that in Australia, that if you say to someone you're an accountant, do they go, oh, hang on?
Yeah, it's that stereotype that we've been battling with, and with ACCA's hashtag Think Ahead, and we've tried to position the brand to say we're not just accountants, we're business partners, helping CEOs and strategy and other things, and that's our role as accountants, to let the world know that we're not bean counters. We're part of a fabric of strategy, of business development, of marketing, and all of the skills that accountants have and can bring to the table. Yeah,
so many people think you're a bean counter, or you just tap on your calculator every day, or anything on those lines. It's it's the skills that you develop as an accountant that you could go and start up your own business, and the finances in and out, and just key things that I speak to business owners, and you ask them about their cash flow, and they go, oh, hang on, what do you mean by my cash flow? So they go, oh my gosh, right, we need to have a talk. But what would you give? What advice would you say to someone who's looking to start out in their accounting career?
Oh, just go for it. So, if you've read my story, I started out as with background in medical sciences. I wanted to be a doctor, and the rest is history. I'm an accountant now. I sit on the global board of the global accounting body. And so you never know where that journey would take you to. But even if you don't want to be an accountant and you want to be an engineer or a doctor, by doing some of the modules we've got in ACCA, and I'm sure there's information online. If you go to the website with the links there, you would see that there are different modules, diploma here, basics of accounting, that would help you as a different professional. You're an architect, you're an engineer, you're a musician. I think having some of those basics that ACCA has programmed together, some of our modules you can pick and imbibe that into your career would be extremely useful.
100%. It's a case of the opportunities are out there, the connections are out there for you. The ball is in your court as well. So that's the main thing. Now, as we're unfortunately drawing the podcast to an end, which I'm deeply saddened on, because you and I could talk for hours upon hours, and the viewers will happily turn off. But I have to point out as well, the one thing for every person who comes on the ACCA Global Podcast, I will now be planting this acorn for you as well. In the UK, look at that beauty. And for a chap who works in sustainability, you will...
That's everything.
So if you pop over to the UK, I'll send you a photo of the plant pot, but that is your acorn, Joseph. That is...
Thank you. That's amazing.
That is going to be planted. And I mean, if the podcast takes off, I'm going to have to expand. This is going to be ridiculous. I'm going to have plant pots in my office here. So that's it. But yes, well, I must say as well, I'll make sure that gets planted for you today. And a massive, massive thank you to my smartest and the best background guest and the badge as well, putting us all to shame as ever. So it's like, look at the representation there. But I must say, so much added value we've spoken through today, and it's been great to catch up as well. Well, everyone, if you have enjoyed today's podcast, feel free to put in the comments below any questions, any bits of feedback. Joseph and I will happily respond to you as well on there. All of our details to connect on LinkedIn. If you've seen any opportunities to actually get in touch with us as well, I mean, superstar over here, it's okay, and I'll do my best to help you out, so it's okay. But as ever, feel free to give the video a thumbs up at the bottom so that more ACCA students can see it, and subscribe so you get all of my other free videos. They're all out there for you. I think that's not a bad deal, is it, Joseph, on that one? That's okay.
It's not amazing. It's amazing deal.
Well,
you can't get it anyway.
I know, it's a complete freebie. It's all right, but well, we've put the KPMG will be sponsoring the next video. I'm sure it'll be all right. I know, exactly. Well, thank you very much for actually watching today, everyone. I really hope you've enjoyed it. You got so many insights out of it as well. But as always, on that bombshell, we will see you next time as well. So thank you, Joseph, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.